Okay. Excellent. Hello, everyone. So, first question is, can everyone hear and see? Oh, no, that's not the right button. Please do say. So, wake up. I'm awake. I'm here. I am here. I've arrived just in time. Please do tell me if you can hear me and see me. Apologies if I'm a little bit on the late side. I spent my entire afternoon setting up OBS to do lots of clever things with streams. And then I realized that for some reason, YouTube doesn't let you kind of revert. Wait, is my microphone really quiet? I feel like my microphone might be quiet. One moment. Sound settings. Let's get this fixed. Yeah, I spent ages in OBS trying to get everything up and running. For some reason, YouTube doesn't allow you to change it if you've set it to webcam. So let me just boost up my volume a bit. Testing, 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 testing. Let's go on to max. Cool. Right. Let me know if that is sounding okay. Wait, what? Input. Test it. What? There we go. Okay. Testing. Testing, testing. Right. Can people hear me okay? I'm gonna wait for that to come back. So if is that changing it? That's very odd. Oh well. Right, if people can hear me okay, please say mushroom in the chat or something, just so I know that it's up and running and working properly, or something equally silly, so that I know that it's all working. Sounds like this. Hey, wonderful. That's not too bad when it comes to latency. Hello, everyone. Badger. Anyway, excellent. Thank you very much. I don't know why I said mushroom. Mushroom, thank you very much. Right, yeah, so hello everyone. I hope everyone's having a lovely day and hopefully have a lovely weekend ahead of them, fingers crossed. And yeah, this is just basically a forum to ask any questions you may have. I got a butt ton on Twitter, and so I'm just like, I'm trying to respond to them as fast as I can, but there's a lot of details that I'm breezing over. So this is basically just a space for people to ask questions. If you got any, I'm not sure I'll be actually able to show pictures because I'm doing this via webcam, but I can talk about anything you fancy about either the suit or how I made it or the mindset or advice or like pretty much anything you fancy. So yeah, like over to you guys. It's been a hell of a journey, and I'm very, very glad it is over with. First question from Hypervlog. Don't you use OBS? I do use OBS, but for some reason, if in YouTube Studio, if you set it to webcam, I don't think you can send it back to a regular stream. So I had a whole thing set up, but it wouldn't let me switch off webcam. It was very, very odd. So yeah, I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that's gone a bit sideways, but I'm still here. I'm still streaming. I'm on time, which is the important thing. Yes. Oh, and also, if you prefer, drop me a DM either on Telegram or Twitter or any way you fancy if you prefer a more private approach. Excellent. Cool. So let's have a look. Hype, what is the capacity of your batteries in there? Interesting. So the capacity of the batteries, I have one singular lithium polymer phosphate ion battery pack with 4,400 milliamp hours under its belt, and that's a 4S2P pack, I think, if that means anything to anyone. But it's essentially 4 cells doubled up, so it was a lot of power. In retrospect, it was way too much. But that's only something you find out afterwards. Yeah. Interestingly, yeah, I would advise anyone in the fursuit maker community, do not go near lipos. Do not do it. They seem very, very tempting, but please know. LiFe's or lithium polymer phosphate ions are a brilliant drop-in replacement. They're essentially the same as lithium polymer, a little bit more expensive, but you can stab them, you can stand on them, you can drop them in water, and all they'll do is become quite an expensive fog machine if they're broken, compared to lithium polymer, which will blow up. So yeah, please use lithium phosphate ion. They're brilliant. But yeah, cool. Miles, how do you make sure the LEDs look continuous, diffusing the light through the suit? Yes. So a couple of things on this front, the diffusion. I'm going to talk about the physical stuff first and then the digital stuff afterwards. The first step was finding out that the best way to create that diffused look through fur is by using wadding. So do I have any spare? No, I don't think I do. So the suit layers on my suit essentially go fireproof underlay, LED strips, waterproofed, of course. Thank you, Emblade, for the technique. Half an inch of like duvet wadding, and then the fur. So I'm essentially walking around in a heated blanket crossed with a sofa. It's not fun. But the long and the short of it is that that creates the separation distance that will allow some nice diffusion to occur, which is really, really important to not see those dots. Because the whole idea around this project was I don't want somebody to look at it and go, oh, LEDs. I want people to look at it and think, how the hell are you doing that? And the first step to doing that was removing those dots. So that was the first step. Secondly, the second approach is in software. All of the effects, all of the light work was done spatially. So all of the LEDs knew where they were in space, which means you could do some clever maths and get it to smooth transitions between LEDs that were a little further apart than you'd want them to be. So essentially, it's like anti-aliasing, but yeah, kind of anti-aliasing, which also made that smooth effect. If I didn't have it and you do like a straight line, you definitely see a bit of stepping. But yeah, the way that I did it, averaged it out, made it blurry, and it just kind of smoothed out a little. So I hope that answers that question. Why not use airsoft Li-ion? Because Li-ion are also equally dangerous, and lithium-ion don't have enough of a C rating. So a C rating of a battery is essentially how fast it discharges. So if you have a battery of 1C, that means it could discharge its entire contents within an hour. It's a nice rule of thumb. The batteries I had were 30C, which means you could dump the entire contents in 2 minutes. Now, the benefit of that in this scenario is that the majority of the time I'm wandering around, I'm drawing next to no current. I'm basically just walking around with a few fans on. It's hardly anything. And then I want to go www, boom, and that's when you get that power spike. And essentially, if you had enough batteries to do that all of the time, then you'd need a lot. The benefit of lithium polymer phosphate ion, the benefit of lipos, is that they're incredibly good at dumping all of their energy out really quickly. So that's why I use lithium polymer phosphate ions, because you can get that without having to have loads of batteries. So I'm just working through these top to bottom. I will get to you if you have asked a question, but I haven't got to it yet. Yeah, with the whole battery thing, I am planning on cutting down. So I'm going to do a 2.0 revision at some point of the suit, and I'm going to cut down the battery capacity to about 75% because it was too much. I didn't get through half the battery in all the suiting I did at Confuzzle. I didn't get through half. It was bonkers. I really didn't expect it because I did some maths, but of course everything I was doing for this suit was rated to double what I expected. So whenever I was working with any kind of number, whatever it was, the number would be here and I'd double it. So I'm like, this is my expected runtime, double it. This is my safety rating, double it. This is the wire I need, double it. Everything was doubled up. And the reason is you don't know where to cut corners until you've not cut the corners. So you need to go all in to start and then pare it down. So that's why I did it that way. And looking back, I now know where I can cut down on things because I know what failed, I know what worked, I know what didn't. So yes, lipo are fine, only mild risk. Yeah, please don't. If I see one of you with a lipo on you at a convention, I will come and stab you in the lipo to prove you an asset. No, I won't really. That's very dangerous. Do not do that. But please don't use lipos. They are walking time bombs. And genuinely, though, on a serious note, the main thing I think about when we're working with lipos and fursuits is please don't be the person who gets us banned. You know, electric fursuits are incredible and we put so much work in. It would only take one event. It would only take one thing globally for conventions to go, right, we're not doing electronics and fursuits anymore. Like, that's my biggest worry. Whenever I'm looking at lipos, whenever I'm looking at circuitry, I do not want to be that person. And please don't be either. That's my thing. Yeah. How many LEDs? Hello. How many LEDs are there in total? Let me get the number. I have the number here. Let me find you every single mapped LED in the suit. I currently have, I think this might be slightly wrong, but the current total is 3,136 LEDs. to date, and that's individual. So each one of those is RGB. So when I'm walking around, cons, and they say, how many LEDs have you got in there? I'm always like, it's over 9,000, because it technically is, but each LED has 3 in it. So yeah. So that's how many LEDs. That's 3,000. You mentioned you had a problem with live EPO cells dying, not being. Yes. Oh, I blew about 100 quid on batteries. Ages back, I bought a load of LiFi cells, and one of the big differences I'd say about LiFi and LiPo, LiFi need looking after. You need to charge and discharge them on a semi-regular basis. If you don't, you'll get what happens to me, which was I found the cells were completely unbalanced. They wouldn't hold charge. It was very weird. LiPo, you can leave in a cupboard forever and they're fine. But LiFi, thank you. You need to just make sure they're cycled every now and again. Otherwise, they might just die. Then again, this was after like 3 years of them being sat in the cupboards. So, it's kind of on me. But yeah, make sure you cycle your cells. And that's just generally good advice. Just cycle your cells. Don't leave batteries sitting alone, because otherwise you know what AAs are like when you leave them in a drawer or a battery or a remote, and then you come and open it 2 years later and they've just dissolved. Don't let that happen with your more powerful batteries. You mentioned you had a problem. Okay, planning on adding LED. Oh, the LEDs to the tail. Richard Flanagan. Thank you for mentioning. There were LEDs in the tail. I put LEDs in the tail. About a couple of hours before the start of the convention, one of my modules started to act up. So I booted the system and it chucked an error, and it was like, we can't contact this module. When I say module, the suit was coated in different modules, and each module had an area that it controlled. This broke down the problem for like running the thing. So each module has its own teensy controller and its own power supply, you name it. And one of the modules stopped responding. And then it came back online, and I was like, what? And then I shut the suit down, booted it back up, and it was fine. And then I did it again, and it suddenly dropped offline, and I'm like, crumbs. And the only thing I'd added recently was the tail. So I went in with a pair of needle nose pliers, like in the convention, in my hotel room, and basically did a load of maths to try and work out which plugs they were, and pulled the plugs out of the back of the control box to disable them, because I thought that's what the problem was. Funny story, during the con when I was walking around, not the dance contest, but during the con, that module fell offline again. And I'm just like, I don't think it was the tail. I think it was something else. I think it was coincidence. So I know I have one module that's a bit dodge. I don't know why, but it's there. But yeah, the tail does have LEDs in, but I just didn't use it. It also has the speaker as well. What's your recommendation? Just charge your cells is my recommendation. Fireproof, yes, the underlay is, well, fire retardant technically. That was a very important thing to add. When the head LED is on, does it affect your peripheral vision? Yeah, peripheral vision, it does, but not as much as you think. So the eyes are constructed out of micro WS2812B strips, really small ones, pretty hard to find, but once I got them, they were brilliant. They work the same as those like party glasses with the grills, and they only fire outwards, which means you don't really get any light back in. You do see a glow, which does get in the way a little bit, but for most cases, you can see straight through. It's no problem, because the backing is black, the plastic is clear, the LEDs are pointing outwards. The main thing is actually the reflection around the rim. But luckily, the eyes are dark or black, and the reason is because A, it looks cool as hell, and B, so that the light doesn't bounce back into my eyes. So that was a big one. Oh gosh, I'm running. Oh goodness, this chat is running away. Airsoft lipos are not safe. Light ion. No. So just to give you an idea, like if you want to be scared, go and look up your phone's milliamp hour rating, convert it to joules, and then convert that to grenades. That is a way to scare yourself. And like one of the biggest risks generally with consumer electronics is these things going nuclear, because when you have them in a pocket, when you have them in jeans and they swell and they catch, you cannot remove them. And I don't know how fast you can undo your belt, but I know that it's not going to be fast enough. And actually, that's one thing that I was taking into consideration when building the suit, is how fast can you get this thing off. And that's why I used LiFi. But genuinely, this is a bigger risk than my first suit. Like I've only had one fire, And the fire I had was when I dropped a phone charger. I've been working with lipos and LiFeUs for like years, and the only problem I ever had was when I dropped a phone charger, which was a Li-ion, and I've had for years. And it hit the deck and just went poof. Fire went sideways. It's not a good time. So yeah, be careful with your consumer electronics. They are delicate things. If you've paid a decent amount of money for them, then are you playing with V2? Are you really looking for scratch and modifying V1? Good question. I'm taking a break for 6 months. Apart from this, I'm going to be taking a big old break, but I've got some ideas. So I've got my suit, and it was very much kind of like the Iron Man Mark 1 built in a cave thing. Not saying a cave, but I live in like a 1-bed flat, and like where I'm sitting here is my workshop. I don't have a workshop. I just have my desk. So hopefully, I'm going to find myself a workshop and work on V2 at some point. There are loads of corners I want to cut, and to be honest, next version you're going to see, you're probably going to be disappointed because it's probably going to have less functionality than the current one, and it's going to be lighter and safer and quicker and just essentially cleaned up. But it's not going to look impressive because you've already seen the impressive bit. The next impressive bit is making it more wearable, which is a me problem, but you know. Do you have the capacity in watt hours or the voltage? So the capacity was 4,400 milliamp hours, and the voltage was 13.6 volts, I think, off the top of my head. How did you do the LED spatial awareness? Oh, that is a fantastic question. This is a bit I get to nerd out about because I've done a talk on this, and it was one of those things as a theoretical talk, and I said you could do this, and then I did it, and it worked, and it was so satisfying. So what I did is I got the fursuit, I hooked up the fursuit to my laptop and turned my laptop webcam on, put the entire fursuit on a turntable, and then got the computer to fire off every LED in the fursuit. When it did that, it took a photo of each of the LEDs as they fired, and then I turned the platform a little bit. I think I turned it in like 45-degree increments, did the entire process again. The long and the short of it is I ended up with a database of LED positions in camera space, so 2D LED positions, just done by taking the brightest pixel, and a load of camera positions, essentially. Because you can imagine the fursuit in the middle and loads of cameras around the outside is equivalent to taking a load of photos from one angle, then turning the fursuit. So then I got all that information about all of these LED positions from what the camera could see, dropped it into a mathematical simulation, essentially, and then ran an optimizer that would essentially project all of the points from all of the cameras into this 3D space from 2D space, and they would intersect. And where they intersected was where that LED was in 3D space. And that's how I did it. That's a bit of a boiled down approach, but the long story short is I used cameras to work out their positions. If you've seen that YouTube video about the guy with the Christmas tree, very similar approach, and it's called multi-view geometry or point and pose reconstruction. And that's what I used. And it was actually one of my favorite parts of the project, but no one ever sees it because woo! And I also got to create some really cool graphs because I used a optimization technique that is fantastic. All you have to do is you get input data, you give it a score, and that's it. So as long as you get input data, you get variables, and then you get a score. And what you do is you randomly tweak the input variables until the score gets better. It's kind of like this random walk approach. It's really fun. But essentially, I just wiggled the cameras around in 3D space until they kind of fit. Anyway, that's going a bit probably too in depth. If people want to ask me more about that, please do mention. Otherwise, I'm just going to skim over it, but please do ask. Going aggressive on the teaching approach. It's so delayed. I don't know what that's in relation to, but thank you. Please don't blow up your close. Yes, please don't. Please don't ruin it for the rest of us. How do you keep the LiFeUs healthy and alive? Alarms. Stick an alarm on it. Cell voltage alarm. Brilliant. Put a digital monitor on there. I was able in my suit to read out cell voltages into my ear because I had an ADC, analog digital converter in the suit, so it could read me the voltage levels. Just use those. If it dropped below 3 volts, which is nominal for LiFeU, stop. I mean, LiFeU 3 volts is like the upper limit of like stop here. But as soon as it gets to 3 volts, any cell gets to 3 volts, stop. Use cell voltages. Please don't just use your two power lines. Do check your cell voltages, because if you've got a dodgy cell, you don't want to drop it below 3 volts. So yeah, do that and keep care of your batteries and buy an expensive battery charger. That's another thing. Having a battery charger that is solid will give you a lot more certainty that your packs are safe and happy. Take a break. Yeah. Okay. So my next challenge is buying a house. So that's my next challenge. But in reality, yeah, I will do a 2.0. I will be back for Confuzzle 2023. I've been too hyped up for it not to. I've got so many ideas, but I'm going to take a 6-month break. I'm going to be probably using 1.0 as a base for it. But then after that, I might scrap it and start again. But I do want to use it as a base. What other projects though? Oh, I've got loads. I think my favorites so far that I want to work on is I want to go back to my old project that turned people into furries, so human faces into furries and back again. That was really fun, and I think I had a way more potential than I actually managed to get. So I want to try that again. On the physical side of things, I also want to make a animatronic tail that uses real-time physics simulations to simulate different properties. So you could basically have a tail that physically looked weightless or really heavy or springy as hell, and it would abide by physical constraints digitally though. So kind of like motor actuated simulated tail. I don't know. It's one of those things. I always look at animatronic tails and I think, this could be better, but I haven't tried it, so I can't say if I can do it better or not. So give it a go. Are you planning to attend any furcons internationally? I die to meet you at MFF. Hello, yes, I would love to. I'd love to go to some international cons. I won't be taking my fursuit because that thing does not travel well. I will be going to vacation. Anything in the UK, I probably will be able to take my suit to. So I'll be going to vacation, which will be fun. And I've actually been invited to a convention in Amsterdam or the Netherlands, somewhere around there, to talk about my suit. So I might do that. But essentially, if it's within the next 6 months, it's not going anywhere. It's not happening. I've got other fish to fry. We spoke on Twitter about another suit with LEDs. How do you end up washing the suit? Electronics in water. Obviously, you can. You can. The LED strips are waterproof. They have been waterproofed the same method that Emblade Akita uses. Hats off to Emblade. Really pioneered this kind of stuff. You can submerge it, but like a lot of fursuits, like a lot of airbrushed fursuits, you can't wash them. And to be honest, with the suit as it is, I'm not expecting to wash it. I'm expecting to do what a lot of suit makers do, especially if they've got airbrushed suits, which is to sanitize, to clean, which I've already got planned, to spray down and essentially do kind of like a dry clean. But you can also separate the layers. So you can peel off the fur and wash that if you wanted to. You can separate it, and the same with the head. The front of the head comes off and you can wash that. So actually, you can wash the outside. Inside's a little trickier, but yeah. Cool. What software program does the Raspberry Pi run to control all these? Cool. Okay, so well, it's Dr. Emmett Brown. My name's Dr. Emmett Brown. I'm standing at the Twin Peaks Pine Malls. Please tell me that that's why you're Emmett Brown. That means a huge amount to me if you are. If anyone saw me, by the way, on the Saturday night, 1 a.m., I was dressed up as Dr. Brown for a little bit, which was fun. At Confuzzle, that is. How do I? So, like the madman that I am, I wrote my own control system. So I wrote something in C++ that basically dynamically loads spatial 3D effects, which I also wrote myself, which was fun. And so that all loads it in. And then the point where my understanding disappears is it then gets handed over to an open pixel controller server that then propagates that information to all of the individual submodules, which are based off the Fade Candy boards, which are now discontinued, sadly, but I'm going to work on that. Some news on them, news in the pipeline on that front. But essentially, yeah, it's a C++ program. It's available on GitHub if you want to see, but it is hot garbage, steaming hot garbage. Do not take inspiration from. Please don't. What's the smart fuse? I saw it in your code. Aha. Smart fuses. So smart fuse is something I developed, and essentially it's a small little circuit board with 3 things. The first thing it has a tiny fuse, 10 amp blade fuse in it. So that's the first thing it has. The second thing it has is a FET, so essentially a digital switch. And the third is a current sensor. Now, the switch is actually the most important thing. The LEDs when they're off, draws about 4 amps of current with them off, because each of the LEDs is individually addressable. The little ICs, the little controllers inside each LED takes a minuscule amount of current, but you add that up and you draw about 4 amps, which would kill my battery in about an hour, plus anything you want to actually do with it. So what the FETs do is they basically disconnect all of the lighting power supplies to save on energy. But they also have current sensors in that little smart fuse box. And the nice thing about that is that when you close and open these FETs, you can measure how much current is flowing through the entire system. And because the LEDs draw current when they're off, you can actually tell how many LEDs are connected by closing the FETs, reading that current value, and then opening them again, and also reading the current value again. That will tell you how many LEDs are connected, and you can basically set a threshold to say, hey, if it's more or less than you expected, something's gone wrong. Warn the user. So if you disconnect a strip and you close those FETs and the LEDs are off, the sensor will read the current in, it'll be less than it expected, and an alarm will go off saying, hey, you've broken a strip, which did actually happen. One of the strips failed, which isn't too bad considering how many I have. But yeah, and the inverse is true. If you close that switch, there's too much current, it'll kill it even before it gets the actual fuse. And that's why I call it a smart fuse, because it's not only measuring overcurrent, but also undercurrent, which is something you can't really get in like a single package. So I made it, which was a lot of fun. And Zassin helped me out on that front a load, and so did Gary, and hats off to them as well. Yeah, that's a lot of questions. Yeah, I didn't expect this many questions. I gotta admit, I tell you what, I need a drink. One second. Okay. RLiPo is still an issue if I'm running like less than 55. Yes. Don't use lipos. Just no. Just don't use something else. Please use something else. If you're using like less than 50, 5-volt neopixels, use lithium ion. Use or not lithium ion. You can use AA batteries, like AA batteries or something smaller, or LiFePO cells you can get real small because they're also really good for replacing transmitter batteries. So go for a LiFePO. No reason not to. Or actually, if you're doing less than 50 at 5 volts, I would recommend actually a really high quality USB phone charger. Now, I just said the only problem I had was dropping one, but it was a cheap one. Get yourself a nice one, because it'll have a battery management circuit in, it'll have a warranty, and it will have a huge corporation behind it that definitely doesn't want to have a lawsuit on its hands. So actually, if you're doing like a small number of LEDs and you want a stable 5 volts, get yourself a decent quality Anchor or whatever USB battery bank. That's what I would do. Don't do what I did and buy a £5 one off eBay. That's the mistake I made. You need some Grafana. No, actually, that's an interesting point. Zassin has just said you need some Grafana, and that's graphing software. The one thing I found out about when in suit is that it's all great having this error system telling you what's going wrong with the suit, but there's nothing you can do about it. I realized this when I was suiting, and I was like, this is so dumb. The system could tell me, hey, this thing is broken. There was nothing I could do about it. I was like, I'm in suit right now. I need someone outside of suit to fix this. And also, most of the things that went wrong, you couldn't just fix them. You just needed to keep running. And I actually, before I went to the con, I disabled most of my error checking, because what do you do? Like in the dance contest, when I was doing the dancing, I had an error going off my ear halfway through. That's why I stalled. If you've seen the full video, I stalled halfway through because my button for activating the voice system disconnected. You can see it fly out in the video. And it was like, warning, this thing is disconnected, the rest of it. And the thing comes back to me like, what do you do? Nothing. You have to keep going. And so that's one of the things where it comes to logging and stuff like that and errors that I'm actually dialing back, because I'm like, what do you do? If that's the case, you're not going to care until you're out of the suit and you're looking at diagnostics and you want to have a look at, the logs. In real time, it's useless. It's completely useless. Lights on lights. Yes, lights on lights. Lipos are dangerous, and even when you know exactly. Yes, I know what I'm doing, and I still caused a fire with one. Yeah, Galaxy Note 7, that too. Yeah, please be careful with lipos and batteries in general. Any batteries can be dangerous. I've said LiFePOs are good. They're not, they're good, but they're not safe. I mean, if you want something safe, power your first suit with a water wheel or something. How fat can you get out of your belt? Fast how you get about it? How can you? Highbeam emergency. 8 seconds. Galaxy Spice. Setting up tends to take time, but with all those layers, yeah, no. So this is also a really good point. Safety was a huge aspect of this costume, and getting in and out of your suit quickly is very important. So you need to consider it at every single step, and that's having a handler who's fire trained. So I had a handler at my Compulsor that was a qualified fire marshal. We had a set of procedures for different situations. We had fire extinguishers on hand. We had fire blankets on hand. If you see my handler in the videos wearing a big bulky jacket, the reason is because in the side of there, you've got a lot of kit for dealing with pretty much anything that could happen on the day. So yeah, safety is a big concern. Getting out of your suit fast is important. Having seams you can rip. I know that sounds silly, but if you're in a hurry and you can grab something and pull it and rip it off, do it. If you can fit something that has breakable joints, do it. If you've got plugs, don't use screw fit. Do not use screw fit. I had some screw fit connectors that were never connected. And the reason is because you want to get that thing off as fast as possible and you're not going to have time to fiddle around with screws. So with the head, I know that I could grab the back of it with one hand and I could pull a rip strap out the back and it would essentially disconnect the clip and pull the fur away at one go. I would throw my head forward, the entire thing would go over my shoulders, and I tested this, it does work. Both the wires will disconnect out the back, which is why the connectors were in the back the way they were. The same with the collar, with the throat here, you can grab it and rip, and it would rip down the center. The zip was weakly connected via like a rip seam. The battery pack is slotting, so that drops out. It's also got a fuse on the back that you can yank out as well with a little tab on it, so you can just pull out the main fuse if you need to, which cuts all power. There was so much safety stuff that no one saw, but the reason was because yeah, I didn't want to be that guy. Did not want to be that guy. You say taking a 6-month break, but if you're anything like me, you'll be supposed to. Oh, shut up. You say 6 months break, but if you're anything like me, you'll be spending 6 months mulling over in the back of your head. You're right. You're right. I've been thinking about it. I've got some ideas, but I'm not working on them. That's the important thing. That is incredible. I don't know what that is, but you're welcome. 6 months. I'm thinking about my suit for the next 2 years. Yeah. Re-batteries, again, some Grafana stuff would be good so you can set alerts on loads of stuff. To be honest, simpler. I would say if you're doing anything to do with safety, make it as foolproof as possible. Make it as dumb crap as possible. Like my suit, there was an alarm like plugged into the top of the battery on the balance lead. Like it was really that low level. Because I know that those alarms are loud. I know I'll be able to hear them. I know my suit will be able to hear them. It doesn't require logging. If something crashes, like if your system crashes, the safety features still need to run when the entire system seg faults, the pi burns, and something goes wrong. Because if something goes wrong like that, that is when you're going to need your safety systems, when everything else has failed. So you need to make sure your safety systems are at the bottom line of your processing and all your stack. So expect everything to fail and then expect your safety system to kick in. Same with the smart fuse system. All of the smart fuse systems automatically disconnected if they lost contact with the main server for 50 milliseconds. So if there wasn't communication within 50 milliseconds, everything would drop. So it would lift all of the contacts, all of the submodules would be disconnected. And that's because if you have a state where all of the LEDs go white for some reason, then there's a brownout on the battery, LEDs stay white, you've now got a suit that's basically turned into a toaster. So you need to make sure that everything defaults to off. Hardware, software, you name it. Adam Chantel, yeah, maybe. Mech looking tail, nice. Any recommendation for resources for looking into making a 5-volt LiFi battery? Depends how much power you need. The 3 things you need. Number 1, battery charger, get a decent one. Number 2, LiFi battery, get a decent one. I'd recommend Turnigy. Turnigy do a nice compact series, they're very good. Number 3, you need a BMS battery monitoring system, or you need battery monitoring system. And a lot of that comes with a buck converter. So this is what converts your LiFi voltage of 3.6 volts or 7.2 into 5 volts. And you can get a lot of units that are double up, so they do battery monitoring and the 5-volt thing. But you can do it separately. But I'd recommend personally, get yourself a decent charger, get yourself a decent LiFi, get yourself a decent voltage converter buck thing. and also an alarm to put at the bottom level, just in case everything goes tits up. It is Back to the Future is amazing. Oh, it's my favorite film. Back to the Future is. I do have a DeLorean somewhere in my room, like a small one. Don't know where it is, but it's my absolute favorite. I just imagine having the suit. I would just spend ages mucking about wiring different visual effects for it. Ha! I did not have time. I had one day. All the effects you saw at the con bar one were done in 8 hours, start to finish. Um, that was not a fun day. Did not enjoy. And yeah, that is fun. I did enjoy putting the effects together, but to be honest, at that point I was just ready to, let it all go. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And to be honest, the last convention I went to with something like this was the Head, and I bumped into an amazing person called Four Fox, and they came up to me mid convention, and I had no idea who they are. And they came up to, I'm not going to try their accent, but they were basically like, "Hey, I've seen your GitHub and I've seen your open source fursuit project, and I saw you've got it here today. Do you mind if you approve my pull request? I've made a new effect for you." And at that point, I just took the head off and was like, "What?" I was so blown away that somebody had stumbled across my work and wrote an effect for it. We sat down, we went through it, I got it approved. I updated the system, automatically did its thing, and we got it running. And it was so wonderful. And to be honest, if the effect system wasn't more of a mess, I would have reached out to some people to help me write some effects. But it was such a mess. It was so last minute. I was like, you know what? I would much prefer stuff going wrong that I know how it works than to ask people for effects where I don't know if they would work or not. But I do want to in the future. I think that'd be super fun and have an open source thing, so you can write your own effects and run it on the suit. I even thought about actually giving my suit to somebody at the con this year, because I'm taking a 6-month hiatus, and I was like, hey, take it, run with it. I want it back in 6 months, but until then, have fun. Because I think, yeah, it'd be really cool. Hi, Inari, lovely to see you. Your dance was amazing. Thank you very much. I've never done anything like that before. It was super fun. I really enjoyed myself. It was bonkers. I was crying. I was crying like before the performance, after it. Like I only just managed to pull myself together for the performance. But after the dance, I got the head off, I got the bodysuit off, I hugged my handler, and then I went out back and then hugged Shovel, the person who made the suit, like the actual suit. I could not have done this project without them. By the way, massive shout out to Shovel Suits, an absolutely incredible person, incredible work. And I just went out back, I hugged him and just burst out crying. And I was just like, we're done, we've done it. It's just been such a huge load, and he's been with me every step of the way. Same with the electric fursuits. Every member of that chap is absolutely wonderful and has helped me achieve this. But just huge love to everyone, and also the dance. The entire dance crew was incredible. They cheered, they suggested, they improved. They were just incredible. And what a lot of people don't know is actually the performance that you saw on stage. I performed to the judges the day before. We all performed our dances to the judges the day before, and we already had our feedback like 24 hours before the show. And it was just the energy on the day, and the energy the day before was just like, yeah, you go do it, woo, woo. It was incredible, and yeah, just absolutely remarkable energy, and it was so wholesome. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I'm getting all teary. I didn't do that much. Yes, you did, Zatin. Shush. Also, smart soft fuses are a thing. They are essentially fuses with an IC and a reset. Yes, they are. However, it didn't have it didn't have a high-powered FET. The ampage was difficult to get, something that's rated for 20 amps, and getting something to blow undercurrent was tricky, and getting that current set dynamically on the fly, it was just a bit too much. But I've got plans for the future. I will be making some improvements. Is it safe to use an 9-volt battery for a fursuit? I've got a story about this. Gather round, children. No. I had a blue fursuit once, and it was a design technology A level. I think I got about 94. It was great. And it was horrifying. It was so horrifying. It looked like it had the nickname of Sneaker Nose because it looked like a sneaker. By the way, I'll come back to that later. But yeah, it had like LED panels, it had fans, it had speakers, it had a head-up display and a camera. It was bonkers. And basically that was powered by 8 AAA batteries. And everyone can probably agree, yeah, that's a pretty good, pretty safe bet. I gave it to somebody for free, or I sold it to them for nothing, next to nothing. And they enjoyed it way more than I ever did. But one day they put the head on, something caught, something, wasn't happy. And these AAA batteries sprayed acid into the side of their face, battery acid. He got it off as soon as he could. But basically, he had battery acid down the side of his face. Luckily, it didn't get in his eye, but they were right here and here. And that's another thing I'd say. If you are using batteries, again, I don't care what you're using, don't put them near your face. And again, this is another safety thing. Boring Maraday moment. Do not put batteries near your face. You can survive burns anywhere on your body more than you can your face, and you'll regret it more. Do not put batteries in fursuits, even if they're the safest batteries you can think of. Even if there's some AAA batteries from Duracell, don't put them in the head. And yeah, he ended up with battery acid over his face. He was okay, but it was at that point I realized 2 things. 1, I don't care how safe your batteries are. Do not put them in your head. 2, if you're going to give something to somebody, or if you're going to sell something to somebody, you need to take the responsibility of whatever happens with that suit as if it was yourself. And that's the reason why I don't do commissions, because it's not worth it. I could hurt myself, that's fine, but hurting other people and hurting my friends, that's something different. Anyway, something lighter now. Let's have a look. Do you think about using modified maglock connectors? Oh, modified maglock connectors. One moment. I've got my little box. I've got a really cool connector that I have to show you that I never used, but I thought it was the neatest thing. Oh, yeah, that's another thing that people don't tell you. The amount of stuff you try that doesn't work, and the amount of things I have here from ideas that didn't work. I've got these little magnetic pogo pin connectors, which are just the most satisfying things in the universe. I was going to use these for the paw pads to connect the paws, but then I realized, don't be an idiot, just use a regular connector. This is fun and fancy, but the chance of it going wrong is so high. So yeah, I did use these. I think this is what you're referring to by maglock. But yeah, I do use magnets in the suit though. I do use magnets. Good info on the quick release. Yeah, whatever you do, be able to get out of your suit. Have a handler who knows. Just please keep safety in the front of your mind. Sounds like you can escape from the suit like a fallout power. Yes, it would break the suit. That's why I didn't do a full test run, but it would break the suit. But you just have to at that point. It doesn't. I don't care if you're in front of small children and it's going to ruin the magic, or whether it's going to break your $4,000 fursuit. Your safety is of highest concern, and also everyone around you as well. Because yeah, someone hugs you, they're going to be at risk as well. I wanted to say thank you for such a jaw-dropping performance from Commander Apples. Hello. That was on par or better than the Eurovision entries. Actually, mind-blowing stuff. Thank you. That's really kind of you. I really appreciate it. I want to come back stronger next year, so watch this space. It'll be fun. And also, Wolf and Banana has been stuck in my head for so long now. Zassin, I might not have explained my use of Grafana right with the batteries. I meant for the longer-term storage solution, so you have a battery. Oh, yeah, that might be fun. That might be fun. Go do it. Yeah. Emmett Brown, I can't believe just how well that suit is designed. Hats off to you. This is incredible. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's always the way. Whenever you see something from the inside, you're like, why did I do X? But I'm trying to ignore it. Hats off to you. Wait, can you play Doom on your suit? Is there a Linux build of Doom? Because if there is, feasibly yes, Linux Doom. Can you play Doom on Linux? How to install and play Doom on Linux? You can install Steam. Can you install Steam? Can you install 4? Oh. Okay. Maybe, but it might be tricky because essentially the Raspberry Pi is an ARM processor, so it's not like your desktops essentially. So if you're trying to run anything that's designed for consumer market, you'd probably have to rebuild it from scratch, and I don't think you can get Doom source code. You probably could either by shoving it through an emulator or some kind of layer, or if there's an open source one. I mean, you can play Snake. You can absolutely play Snake. You play anything that's supported on Linux. You could play Team Fortress on the suit. You absolutely could play Team Fortress or Half-Life or Portal. You could play those. I'm not going to do it, but you could. Quick release. Sounds like you can. Oh yeah, blah 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 blah. God, I need to speed up on this. Can you play Doom? Snake. There we go. Have you ever considered throwing all the skills you've got at a synth or protogen? I don't know. Protogens are a bit boring, you know. Sorry, no. No, to be honest. And the reason behind it is because I like to push boundaries. I like to do new stuff. I like to create. I like to invent. And to be honest, protogens are cool, but there's a limit to. I've put LEDs behind a visor. Like, I get it. It's kind of been. It's not been done. I mean, there's always stuff to do. There's always stuff to do. But I get bored easily, and so when taking on projects, I like to do something that's wildly new that no one's done before. So yeah, it's been tempting just because I like it'd be so satisfying. You like got space. You've got like you know, it's solid. It's rigid. Like there's yeah, it's very tempting. But no, I want to do something new. I want to do new stuff, and we've seen protogens before. You know, we know they exist. They're great. I mean, one thing I do want to do is do more like dynamic stuff, like with motors and LEDs and stuff, like more kind of human feel, not like here is an animation, here is another animation, I'm looking over here now, but more like, you know, reacting to what's around you, that kind of stuff. And like the suit, not many people know, but the costume, the Highbeam is voice activated. That's how I could do stuff so quickly. And I'd love to have more integration like that. So being able to kind of talk to your suit, that kind of stuff, which might be fun in a protogen, but I'm not planning on making one. And also, I'm not going to make a visor, and I'm not going to pay for a visor. So it's kind of the crux of it because they're expensive and they're hard to make. Richard Flanagan, he has a Raspberry Pi 4. Oh yeah, there we go. It could run no, it wouldn't be able to run Crisis. It would burn up. Maybe not actually. Could a Raspberry? Ooh, can a Pi 4 run Crisis? Can you run Crisis on our Pi 4? Oh, you can. That is concerning. That is very concerning. Right. Okay. Anyway. Right. Not 100% sure if this has already been asked. How did you activate all the different effects? I remember in 19 you had an iPad. Yes, I did have an iPad in 19. And I've already answered this, but yeah, it's voice recognition. So that's one thing that no one knows on the outside, but it's one of those things where on the inside it's cool as hell, but it's really cool because no one notices. But it's a weird one. There's a microphone in the suit, and basically it runs a system that Zassen introduced me to, which is Pocket Sphinx, which basically does voice recognition. And so whenever I'm talking, I have two buttons on my left and right hand. The left one is basically like a listen to me button. When I'm holding it down, it'll run the speech recording. And as soon as I let go, it will do the recognition, which takes like less than a millisecond. It's blazingly fast. And then the right-hand button is optional, but it's a confirm button. So it's if I want some kind of timed effect. So if I want to go, play handshake, and then it will say play handshake confirm. So it's got a speech synthesis module as well. Runs off eSpeak. Very simple. And then I can basically trigger it with this button. But I can change what this button does by talking into it. So I can say, play rainbow, and it will load a rainbow, or do this, and it would do that. Or I can say, stop effect, and it'll stop effect, or get cell voltage, and you get the idea. So that's how that worked with the two buttons. But no one ever saw it, but it was so cool. It was like an Iron Man fursuit, but of course no one sees it. So can Highbeam run Doom? I don't know. Can you make it run Doom? There is the question. Where can you rewatch? It's on my Twitter. Or if you want to see the full Confuzzled dance contest, go over to confuzzled.tv. Please watch the entire thing. There are some incredible dancers. And the best thing about it is that every single one of them is lovely in person as well. They're all absolutely delightful human beings. Go check out the dance contest. 12 out of 10. Wait, did you know what place you had the day before? No. So the scoring, because there was the addition of Adler the Eagle on the day, we didn't know what the scoring was going to be, and the scoring wasn't done the day before. So no, the scoring was fresh, but we already got our feedback to work on. So that was all set. But yeah, are the little bloops at the start of the dance track telling you? Yes, very observant. Miles has to get very observant. So essentially, at the start of the track, it goes bloop, 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 bloop. And what that is essentially when I put my hand up, say I'm ready. What I said was effect fight song, which is the voice command for the fight song. And then it said fight song confirm. And basically, I had the button here. This was ready to fire. And as soon as you press that button, that is the timestamp that everything else will basically be mapped to. So all of the effects were in relation to this point that used the internal clock on the Pi. And so that bloop, 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 bloop was when I was to press the button. And as long as I hit that cue, then I knew that everything else would fit, essentially. And I also discussed with the lighting crew and the audio crew about what to do if I missed it. So I could do like this, and then send it back to the start. I made sure I could hear it. So yeah, that's what the blips were for. I thought you had practiced that performance for weeks before things were timed to the same. Yes, I did practice that dance for weeks. And I actually had a professional choreographer help me do the choreography for it, because I can't dance. So I was like, help. And they didn't tell me what to do, but they teased what I wanted to do out of me and got me to write it down. And that was the thing that was like, write it down or it's not happening. So they were great. Yeah, they were super, super helpful. And when I got home, yeah, I just hugged them and we cried for a bit. It was great. So yeah, that was that. And also that's the one thing that I was annoyed about on Twitter. So because some people were responding on Twitter to say, great, 99% of people were like, whoa, that's incredible, which is so affirming. Thank you. Because it's always interesting when like you've got an idea in your head and you're trying to communicate it with someone and they get it, but they don't like get it. It's like, oh yeah, that's cool in practice. But it was so nice to be able to see what I had in my head on stage and then for everyone else to go, oh, I get it. And to go, this is really cool. And I'm like, I know, I've been working on it for years. This is where I wanted to get to. Ah! So that was super nice. Yeah, the one thing that annoyed me was there was one or two comments. I mean, the one saying it was basic. Yeah, the dance was basic. I was walking around in a 900 watt fursuit. I mean, come on. And also, like, I was having technical issues on stage. So yeah, it's not gonna be great. But the one that really kind of annoyed me was when somebody said, oh, it was ruined because they didn't put any effort in. And I'm like, you don't know how much effort I've put into this. Just specifically the dancing. Like that was the bit they were critiquing, and I was like, there's a lot of effort that went into that. And also the lights and everything had to time, so I couldn't just ad lib it. I couldn't just make up, moves on the go. It had to match. But yeah, I had practice weeks. If you want to see the dance, not sure what you mean. I'm afraid, Tux. Emmett Brown. I just want to mention, after about 17 times replaying your performance, I think your right paw on the last pad. Wait, I think your right paw on the last pad, it was slightly off time from your left paw. Okay. Oh, pardon me. I'm gonna have to look over that, but actually, no, I don't. I don't have to look over it. It was great. I don't care. But I'm not surprised if it was on off time. I mean, like, there's only a certain amount of accuracy there is of me pressing a button. And yeah. Highbeam, you did a really crazy job. Thank you. When I hear all of this, I'm really looking forward to your next project. I need to head off now. Oh, I'm sorry if you've already missed this, but thank you, Hype, for joining, and I will get back to you about your messages. And thank you for coming on. A Pi can 100% run Doom, if anything Linux. Yeah, thank you, Hyperfall. No, I didn't write my own OS. That's bonkers crazy. No, by trade, I'm a professional software engineer. So my mindset is very much like, if it comes out of the box, do that. If it works, do that. Don't complicate things. So it runs Raspbian, so just a standard version of Raspbian. I think Buster, Wheezy. What's the latest? Raspberry Pi. Does it run? Debian. Yeah, which version of Debian? A version of Debian. Easy. Jesse, stretch, bullseye. Yeah, it runs Debian Buster. There we go. Not bullseye, because I didn't want to get that up to date. But yeah. So that's that. You can run Doom on DOSBox in RetroArch. Yes, but it doesn't run Arch. Chocolate Doom would do the trick. Fair. Protogens are boring. Well, they're not. They're boring to. Well, then I'm sorry, Turks. Like they've been done, and you can do more stuff. But I want to do new stuff. I want to do new stuff. I want to do mad, crazy scientist inventor stuff, which Highbeam is to a T. Did you find Miles? Did you ever find that you're reinventing something that already sold? Yes, constantly. All of the time. Oh, reinventing stuff that, like Assassin said about the fuse system, that I was always inventing stuff that already existed. And there's always I'm going to take the hat off. It's a bit warm. There's always the toss up between, do you spend the time learning someone else's code and trying to work out how to integrate it into yours, or do you write it yourself and know how it works inside and out? Basically, judging how much time it's going to take. If it's something simple, then you're going to want to write it yourself because then you know and understand how it works. But if it gets to the point where things are too complex, you need to use a library, you need to use someone else's code, someone else's work. Do it. I mean, in Highbeam, like the Fade Candy submodules, they are off the shelf. The OpenPixel controller client, off the shelf. The amplifier, off the shelf. The eSpeak voice synthesis, off the shelf. The speech recognition, off the shelf. Like the only coding I've done with that is glue. It's just gluing all these different bits together. And the effect system, which I wrote myself. I wrote the effect system myself because I didn't have time to learn a different one, if that makes sense. And I had a good understanding of how I wanted it to work from my other projects I've had. Protogens with VR goggles that modify real-world images have real-world GUIs. Yeah, that would be fun, but it comes back to what do you want to tell the wearer? At the end of the day, you want to control your character wants to come alive, and you do that through expression outwards. Head-up GUIs, I've done them. They're fun. But I've always found that I want to focus on who's in front of me. And there's not much that my suit can tell me that I can't see with my eyes. And if I have a preference, it is less. I want less. I want the suit to deal with 99% automatically. I want it to do its own thing. I want to be able to control it, to be able to express myself like a puppet. But when it comes to getting information back, I don't want to know. I just want to wear it and it to do its thing, and to adapt. So the GUI thing was something I thought about. I've done fursuits with head-up displays in. I've done it, and yeah, to be honest, it's a nice showpiece, but I haven't got any information that's useful to me. But yes, my baby. Wanting natural reactions. Oh, you talk about wanting natural reactions. Not sure what that means, but I'll reserve. Maybe using a more powerful single board computer which has a proper graphics card. Oh, for goggles, yeah. NVIDIA Jetson, Xavier, any of the series, the NVIDIA series uses dual CSI and MIPI ports with a nice GPU accelerated display. Like, yeah, absolutely, you could do. But also, I'm not a GPU programmer, and I very much know my limits, and I know what I can learn and what I can't. And what I can't learn is how to do CUDA programming. I've done a bit, and it was complicated, didn't like it, didn't have any fun. So maybe I will, but again, I don't have a huge need. I do graphics, I do vision. I'm a computer vision engineer. Like, it's fine. I do work with it, but to be honest, the performance I've seen actually from a professional perspective, we can get as good performance on the processors as we can on graphics cards. That's not always true. There's very specific areas where it's a lot faster on graphics cards, so like transformations, anything to do with like neural nets. But the majority of stuff, CPU is still a pretty strong contender. Richard, also, sorry I'm taking so long to get through these. I'm just as fast as I can without kind of cutting people off. Have you considered something like using accelerometers in the limbs so that effects get played under set circumstances? Oh, story time. Okay, so there was a confuzzled I went to 2018, 2017, 2016, where I had an accelerometer on the hand that would affect the color. It was at that point where I realized that SPI communication, or I2C communication, isn't designed for long distances. If you put the accelerometer on the backpack, it worked fine. As soon as you put it at the end of an arm, it just didn't work properly. It was just funny. And funnily enough, it was actually some people's favorite effect because it was like this glitchy, rainbow effect. Like, oh, that's so crazy. And in reality, the software was just panicking, but everyone loved it. It was hilarious. Yeah, I have. Um, That'd be really cool. I'd love to put more accelerometers. I'd love to put more sensors. I'd love to be able to drive my effects more, do things more naturally. Speech is great, but yeah, there is a little bit for sensors. But like I found with the eyes, loads of people at the event was like, oh, have you got eye tracking? Because the eyes were like darting around a bit. And loads of people were like, oh, that's so cool. You've got eye tracking in there. You can see where he's looking. And in reality, I just had 5 different eye types, each with a set probability that they'd get switched to, and then just a random number generator. It was completely random. And this is the thing is that, lots of sensors are fun, but at the end of the day, you can get away with a lot by just randomly generating stuff. So it's very much my outlook of like, hey, if you can do something simply with less stuff, go for it. So sensors are nice, and I do want to use sensors more, but I'm very much aware that, to be honest, a lot of stuff you can just fudge, and no one's going to know the difference. So yeah, Zasin, give me a few years, and I'll do that voice stuff all the time. What's your GitHub? Code material slash Highbeam, I think. Yeah, it's kind of my semi-professional one. So no oohs in comments, please. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess. You can also see some of my old code on there. It's pretty terrible, but yeah. Intel Phantom Canyon knock on the back. No, not going to do Intel anytime soon. Reaction programs. Yeah, nice reaction programs. Oh, thank you, Emma Brown, for linking. Oh, sorry, thank you, Hyperfluff, for linking. Whew, right. Is Highbeam available to direct traffic outside ferry conventions? When you say direct traffic, I presume you mean like wireless. It does have wireless, but it's private, so it's password protected. So it won't connect to anything apart from my laptop, which is secured. So yeah, it does also have wireless. The last suit that I did actually communicated over wireless, and that's how the effects were launched. The effects were launched with a web GUI that was written in a mixture of Vue and what was it? It was Vue, Bootstrap, and a few other things that I gave to my handler. My handler had an iPad and launched effects from there. But yeah, the problem with that is that it was difficult to coordinate. So hence why I brought the control inside. PCI GPU with RTX. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, no, Tape Wolf. Yeah, Pocket Sphinx works a charm. I don't know what processor you're using, but the Pi 4 processes like a couple of seconds of voice within like milliseconds. The one thing I would say, and also another cool thing that no one knows about the suit, but I think is really cool, is Pocket Sphinx has the option to pass in an optional JSGF file, which is essentially like a dictionary of phrases that it expects to hear. And if you use that, the speech recognition is nearly instantaneous. And if you also use the record and stop button as well, the 2 reasons why that works really well together is that the record and stop allows you to set exactly when you've stopped talking. If you don't have that, then it'll do silence analysis, and it will work out when your voice has been silent for a set amount of time, and that will bring in a lot of latency even before processing starts. So that's the first thing to use a button. 2, the JSGF file. That will reduce your latency hugely, because instead of looking through a million dictionary words to try and find what you said using like just regular speech recognition, it has a dozen with maybe 10 variants each. When I say 10 variants each, that's because like for some of my things, I say like set tail volume to 10. Now, when I say set tail volume to 10, the suit is expecting set tail volume to 10, set tail volume to 9, set tail volume to 8, set tail volume to 6. You get the idea. So each one has a different version essentially. But once you have that, your speech recognition now basically just has to do a best guess about, let's say 100 voice lines to try and see which matches. That makes it really fast, like really, really fast. And when it comes to outside noise, convention noise, have the microphone here. When the microphone is here, You will not hear anything but your voice. It is amazing how high quality a microphone can sound when it is millimeters away from your face. I've done loads of testing, and it's nearly impossible to hear anything else apart from your voice from here, especially from speech rec. Because with speech rec, you can go and it would actually try and match it. So even if it's really distorted, it still does a great job. It's the same reason why with Google, if you try and get it to stop like a timer, you can say ha, and it will be like, okay, Google, stop, and that's what it'll do because it's just doing a best guess. Emmett Brown has an 2060 RTX on board already. Oof. I guess the main question I have, what level of engineering skill, hello all is, do you need to get to before these kind of projects are safe to attempt? To avoid being that guy. Oh, that's such a hard question. I don't know. I would genuinely say give it a go, but get feedback. So there's a group called the Electric Fursuits. I will sing their praises all day long. But genuinely, the amount of times that I had an idea and I bounced it around to get some kind of feel, and it was super useful, was innumerable. If you post an idea in there and it's a safety hazard, people will perk up and be like, "Hey, you might have missed something here," or talk to me. I'm more than happy to help. But I'm not a professional electronics engineer. Oh yeah, please, Hyperfluff, link away. Yeah, I'm not an electronics engineer, but I know the dangerous bits, and I've done that through research. I've done that through talking to people, and mainly it's talking to people. Talking to the Electric Fursuit group. When my first fursuit ran on LiPo, just a LiPo in a bag, with an alarm on it, and no fuses at all, no insulation on my strips. It was atrocious. I was very close to being that guy. The only reason that I didn't become that guy was that I talked to people and I showed people, and yeah, show what you've got. That's another thing. Show people, get feedback. And if something's consistent, if a lot of people say, "Hey, it's not a good idea," take it on board. They're not, the furry fandom is amazing, and I'm very lucky to say that all the feedback I've had has been really, really, directed and needed. So when somebody says, "Hey, don't do that," listen to them. But more than that, go nuts, try something new. And also, if you're doing this at home on your own, and on your own head be it, like give it a go, see what happens. And also make things fail. Shorter lipo. I've done it. It's fun. Just to figure out what happens and to see what happens and do some experiments and stay safe, of course, but break stuff. Breaking stuff's important. Yeah. Tempe, I'm the staff writer for the furry YouTube channel Culturally Effed. Oh, cool. Hello, lovely to meet you. Richard Flanagan, I didn't know that. Yeah. Tape Wolf, what's the boot time of the Raspberry Pi? I struggle to get Raspberry to come up in under 15 seconds on the synth. It's pretty quick. I would say, like, from start to end, maybe 10 seconds. And that includes a full system reboot. So the system was running on as a System D service, so I could reboot it at any time I wanted. But to be honest, the boot time was never an issue. I mean, unless you can get into your suit within 15 seconds, like, yeah, I'd say it doesn't really matter how long it takes to boot. As long as it's less than like 5 minutes, you'd be fine. But also have a way of rebooting it. I had a voice command for rebooting the entire software stack. So have that as well. That's useful. I use that as well. When one of the modules dropped offline, I was like, right, system shut down, restart, and it did, and it came back. Do have a restart command. Tempe, would you be up for being featured on our series about the future mad science tech of fursuiting? Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. Drop me a line and we can talk. Happy to support any way I can. The suit's now in storage. That's not coming out for a while, but I'm happy to write up or to chat or to do whatever. So yeah, drop me a line. Find me on Twitter or Telegram. I'm available on both of those. Miles, you said it took 6 years. How much was spent on each part, designing, coding, etc.? Which bits are the most painful and most complicated? Oh, Yeah, 6 years ago, I did the stupid arm thing. Story time. 6 years ago, I was living in London on 18K a year. That was fun. Making a single furry arm with no insulation, lithium polymer battery pack, with water cooling running alongside it. That was a mistake. And all of these issues, all of these stupid things. And I went into Confuzzled and I had this arm on. I was there for the early day, and I just looked so ridiculous. I've got photos; they are so insane. And after nearly being arrested on the London Underground, let me know if you want to know that story. I walked into Confuzzled, and somebody was like, "Oh, hey, that's really cool. How does it work?" And then you've always got an option in this case. You can be an asshole or not be an asshole. And I was like, you know what? I've just arrived, had a long journey. I'm not feeling great, but I was like, you know what? I can muster the energy. And I'm like, okay, well, it runs on these LEDs. It runs on this small computer called the Raspberry Pi. It's basically like a tiny computer. This is how it works. Here's some stuff. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. That's so cool. How's it programmed? I'm like, well, there's this language called Python, and it runs in Python, which is basically like a scripting language. And I've used all these things, and they're like, oh, very nice, very nice. I said, okay, oh, why are you here? Like, or like, or not, why are you here? Like, have you got anything planned for the con? And they're like, oh yeah, well, we've got a few panels that we have to do. And I'm like, have to do? What do you mean have to do? You being ordered to do panels? And I'm like, well, yeah, well, we're the guests of honor, you see. And I'm like, oh. And at that point, I realized I was talking to the person who developed Fur Affinity. And I was like, oh, please excuse me for a minute. And it was him and Whitey Forks, who's been making fursuits for like 20 years and has putting LEDs in fursuits before I was born. And I was just like, I've got to go somewhere else for a minute. Anyway, sorry, side note. 6 years, how long did I spend on each part? 6 years is generally from conception to today. I've had versions that have been scattered between the two. I did the head, I did the arm. But like the last year is when it's really picked off with the bodysuit. What took the longest amount of time? The longest amount of time doing all the stuff that didn't work. But no one ever notices. No one sees the stuff that didn't work. All the ways that I tried to attach LED strips onto an underlay that didn't work. All of the sewing attempts I made to try and sew them on that didn't work. All of the umming and ahhing and thinking about how to design something properly, like didn't work. Yeah. There's loads of bits that got removed or never used, and that is the bit that kicks me in the teeth every time. Once you found something that works, you can fly. And what I found is I had a chat which showed development work of this suit for people who had supported me through it. And essentially, the activity stream looks like nothing. Everything's done in a day. Nothing. Everything's done in a day. And the thing that took the most amount of time in the entire project was all of that time that nothing was happening, where I was sitting there going like, maybe if I did this, or like I'd go online and just spend an hour like looking for like different materials and stuff, or like researching something that might be useful. I mean, it was all of the research that took the time. Once I had the process, like if you asked me to do another one of those suits, I could knock it out in a couple of months. You know, I know how to do it now. I know, and I don't have to hesitate. That was the other thing that took the time, was the hesitation. Was like, is this the right way forward? Do I go for it this way? Do I not? How do I approach this? But now I can be like, I know this works, and I can just go for it, and I can carry that energy with me, and I can just do things quickly because I know what I can do. So a lot of it is just working out what you can do and how to do it, really. Physically speaking, the most infuriating thing was fitting LEDs into the tail, which never got used because it was such a pain to get the LEDs in the tail. It was just really annoying to do. I tried about 4 different ways, and it was like a day before the con. Finally got a way to do it, and then I disconnected the tail. That was the most infuriating. Anyway, sorry, I'll move on. Emmett Brown says doesn't want any information back. Adds 500 alarms to the suit. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, Emmett. Yeah. But that's what I learned. I learned when I was suiting that I didn't actually want to hear it. If something went wrong, I just wanted it to deal with it. In regards to the communication protocol, I already developed a protocol that uses CAN bus transceivers, but only needs regular UART to work. Oh, that's nice. No, I meant to use your suit to direct cars around the street at night outside conventions. I'm not sure what that's in response to. but I like that. Blaze, so when can you control the suit by DMX and ArtNet? Good question. Other question is, would I want to be? I'd quite like to be in control of my own stuff, but yeah. Cool. Link to the chat. Yes. Thank you, Blaze Husky. 1 second. The Underground Story. Yes. The Underground Story. Basically, I debuted the one arm, the single arm. It wasn't at Confuzzled. It was actually at a London Furs meet because I used to live and work in London. And it was the Christmas party. And I had, or was it the summer party? No, Christmas party. I had this arm, this one singular arm. And I had a rucksack. It was an entire rucksack full of components and speakers and all sorts. It was huge. And the water cooling system of the lot. And it had like fans in the back. It had, connectors for the water cooling system hanging out the side. And more importantly, it had some wires hanging out the side. So I boxed up the arm in like a long cardboard tube. And I jumped on the underground to get to where I needed to go. And there were wires hanging out the side of my bag. And I was like, after a while, I just realized, oh, I am walking around the London Underground with a backpack on with wires hanging out, which would have been fine, apart from on the way back, where I disconnected everything, but I didn't disconnect one thing. And the one thing I didn't disconnect was the LiPo alarm. And what I found was, after showing off the arm, I drained the battery to just above the threshold for these alarms to go off. And the alarm consumes current. So over the train ride home, it slowly ate away at the last remaining 0.01 volts before the alarm kicked in. So I'm sitting on a train in London with a backpack with wires hanging out that starts beeping loudly, with a big countdown timer on the side. I had quite an interesting discussion with the police. Their advice, luckily I didn't get in too much trouble, but their advice was to get the bag and put it in a cardboard box and then carry the box. But it was quite entertaining. I'm just going to open the window. It's a bit toasty in here. Oh, that's better. Sorry if the background noise has increased. I just need some air in here. So yeah, that's the story of when I nearly got arrested for electronic fursuiting, which is fun. So yeah, Emmett, please tell me your voice recognition system is named Jarvis. No, it doesn't have a name because it doesn't need a name because it's not a brand. It's fine. Highbeam has a name just because I wanted one, but more than that, yeah. I tried to think of some fun things, but also it's one of those things where only I would be the person who knew that it was cool, called whatever, and that would be nice. It did have some fun voice commands though that were pulled from Iron Man. So I think one of them was like, "An evening of entertainment awaits, sir," and "Good luck, sir," as well, and a few other voice lines, which was quite good. And there was also some things in there just to hype myself up, like if you say, "Are you ready?" it'll respond, "I'm ready. Let's do this," which is quite nice. But it also proved a really good debugging thing to make sure everything was running. So before I stood on stage, I was like, "Hey, you ready?" And it was like, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this." And that was really affirming to know that everything was running properly. Of course, I could just press the button and it would say no voice detected or no callback registered, but it was nice to see the entire system was running. How did you end up attaching the LEDs in the end? Did you try some sort of 3D printed holders which have holes to sew through the clip? Haha, yeah. Okay. Story about scale. Your fursuit now has 4,000 LEDs on, and you have to mount them twice. The first time you get it wrong. The second time you get it right. You need a way to mount 8,000 LEDs onto a fursuit within a week. because you only have a week to work on the mount the LEDs onto the suit system, because you need another week making the LED strips, and you need another week programming the LED strips and connecting. And so all of these problems, you have about a week. And I think for me, I scoped out about a week over the year to do each block of problem. And attach LED onto fursuit was a week, 7 days, around my 9 to 5 work schedule, of course, and my my partners and everything else that's happening in my life. So I was like, I need to attach these fast, and I also need to attach them in a way that I can make mistakes and I won't be punished too hard for them. So actually, all of the LED strips are attached with hot glue. It is hot glue. And some people will jump down my throat for that, but you know what? I did it, and it works. And your definition of works is defined by you. And the best thing about hot glue, you can point a hot air gun at it, melt it, move it around, try again. That was for me for hot glue, was the fact that I could just very, very quickly redo an entire section of suit, which I had to do multiple times. There's multiple parts of that suit where I laid the LEDs, I put the suit on, I moved around. I was then like, no, I thought this would work. It's not working because of this specific motion. A big one was the chest. Originally, the chest had the LEDs going sideways so that I could bend over. What I realized is they needed to go vertical, because otherwise you can't close your arms. So I had to redo the entire chest section. I had to do redo the entire back section when I realized that I needed extra control boards, and hot glue was the best for being able to pull it out really quick. Same with zip ties. All of the cables are tied with zip ties. So essentially the suit is mostly zip tie and hot glue. And it worked really well. It worked really well. And you know what? I've tried removing those strips without using a hard air gun. It is hard work. The other problem is that nothing sticks to heat shrink. Nothing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. Nothing sticks to heat shrink. So what I did was every time I glued a strip, I put a dab of glue underneath it, and then I do a bridge over the top really quickly. So I do a dab of glue to keep it there, and then go dum 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 with a hot glue gun, and basically made a bridge that on one end was attached to the underlay, and on the other side was attached to the underlay, and it basically just kept the LED strip in place, and that's how that worked. Essentially, worked really well. Would recommend. Good thing about prototyping. Did you get the video from your DJ set in the end? Yes, and it is rendering as we speak. I was just waiting on some footage from somebody who filmed the entire set, which is really nice. And I'm just compiling it now, so it's doing its thing. And yes, I do DJ Hyperfluff. I do electro swing. Yes. Give me a moment. Please, yeah, sorry for the sorry about that. I do electro swing. This is why I use Grafana. I don't know. I can't remember what that's in response to. I'm afraid, so I'm just going to go. Need to set this mute. Emmett Brown says, please, you really should create videos that explain every part of how that works, because it's amazing. A lot of people really just don't watch them. I do want to, but I'm not a content creator. I've tried it. I've done a bit. I've done my hand at it, but it takes too long. It takes too long, and it gets in the way of making stuff. And I do want to help people, and that's why I want to do the stream. I wanted to encourage people and to kind of help people as much as I can. But I also don't think that how this suit works will be overly useful for many other suits unless you want to do exactly this. But I am tempted to do some more talks. I do an electric fursuits show and tell, which is really cool, which I'd recommend. And I'd recommend the electric fursuits chat as well, highly. So yeah, do join and come and say hi and bounce some ideas around, because essentially in that you'll find the same thing as any advice I could give you now. It's like we bounce ideas around, we say, oh, so and so's done this, talk to them. But I might do a bit of a video, but not yet. Emma Brown says, I have used sugar before to hold onto heat shrunk cable and it works quite well. Oh, interesting. Downside with Sugru, whatever it's called. And the other thing you need to consider when it comes to fursuits is that it needs to be flexible. It needs to bend. And hot glue fitted that quite well. I might have a play with Sugru then. Yeah. I look exhausted. Yes. Sorry, I'm probably just tired at this point. But yeah, it's been huge. Like, it's taken over my life, and it has been so much work around all of the other work I'm doing in my life. That's the thing, is that it's not just one thing. It's lots of stuff, and this was a big part of it. So I've had to put a lot of stuff kind of aside for this project, and I'm very much enjoying having it behind me, so to speak. I've got more I want to do, but I've done it. I have proven that you can do it, and that it is possible, which is what I wanted to set out to do. I wanted to set out to say, hey, you know, this is doable. You can do this. But yeah, yeah. Well, I'll be around for a little bit longer, maybe for another 5 minutes or so. But it looks like the chat's drying up a bit, so I will. I would just, yeah, I'd say please do join the Electric Fursuits chat. If you've got any questions to ask left on your mind, please ask them now. Yeah, oh, one more from Minifig 666. Great to see your suit at, oh, pardon me, CFZ. Amazing work. Sorry, if this was already asked, don't worry. How did you manage to cable strain? No one's asked it yet. I've been worried about the solder joints on the LED boards cracking. Very good point. Do I have any examples? Give me a moment. I'm just off screen looking through my bin, try and find an example to show you, which I might not be. Okay, one second. I'll be back in a moment. Just give me 30 seconds. Nope, I think that they've gone in the bin. So essentially, strain relief, the LEDs are made up of. Oh, wait a minute. I don't want to compare them. There's something here. Here we go. This is my box I took to Composite of, like, if everything goes wrong, then this box is the box I need. There we go. Put down there. So here are the LED strips. Ta-da. They're individually soldered lily pad style LEDs. So they're really rigid and kind of flexible as well. So this is the first step in strain relief. The second was using thick gauge heat shrink, which basically formed like a really solid casing to them. So these are quite flexible, but the final LED strips were very rigid, which meant I could use a heat gun to form them into particular shapes, and they would hold the shape really well, which meant they're very difficult to bend, which is where the reliability comes in. This is why they were they should be very robust. And also the way I place them also helps. So a lot of people, when doing LED strips, will do stuff like this. And then, you bend this, and after, a while, it will snap. But with my suit, all of the LEDs were spiral, or they were rings, or they were just generally kind of like this shape. And that allows you to bend without damaging the strips. So very rigid. Heat shrink helped. Placement of the strips helped. And of course, lots of hot glue. So I hope that's answered your question. Oh, and using strips that are made up of actual, flexible wire instead of using copper strips. How did you handle soldering fumes in a one-bed apartment? I didn't open the window, I guess. I do, though, have a really nifty soldering iron. I don't know where it is, but I've got a. That's not in there. Where is it? Oh, it's in there. Okay. I did have a really nifty soldering iron that really did help. It's called the TS100. Here it is. Sorry, I'm getting a bit warm. Let me take off a layer. There we go. Here it is. This is my TS100. This is my soldering iron. And the really nifty thing about this is that you can plug it straight into a LiPo or Li-Fi battery. Anything up to 27 volts, it can be powered off. So you can power it off a USB charger. You can power it off your LiPos. And this actually saved my bacon a lot because it means you can work on it anywhere without any cables because you can connect it straight to your LiPo on the suit. So yeah, this is what I used. Fumes, just blew them away. Probably not very healthy, and I do use leaded solder, but you know, life is short, and I'm already mad enough as it is. Did you design the 3D printed parts? Yes, I did. I did all of the 3D design, 3D printing, mechanical, electrical. I got advice and I got help from a lot of people, but the end stuff was mine. The only thing I would mention is that the head, the design of that, the design of the head was tweaked by crumbs. What's their name? There's somebody who does amazing art. They do really good art, and I'm not an artistic type, so I made the head shape, and then I was like, please fix. I gave it to them as an object file and be like, can you make it look better, please? And they did an amazing job. And their name is, I can't remember the name. Crap. Professional grade costume work. Would recommend. Anyway, sorry, I'll move on. Will you be at Furcation? Yes. Basically compulsory. I mean, come on, it's 1920s theming and I'm an electro swing DJ. I mean, it has to happen, right? What's your thoughts on EL wire? I have lots. An EL panel. I also have lots. EL panel and EL wire fall into the category of I tried it and it didn't work. So like you might have noticed, people might have noticed, if you're observant, that the Faraday, no, sorry, not Faraday, the Highbeam logo lit up, right? And I originally tried using an electroluminescent strip, but there are a few problems with this. The first one is it's not very bright. It's not great. It's not fantastic. It's pretty dull, really. And it's really hard to see, especially in bright light conditions at a con where there are no dark spots in a con. Like everything is lit relatively well. Well, at least at Compuzzle, you know, there's no shady corners you can lurk in, apart from like one stairwell. So you need, and you also need one of these, which is a transformer. And this transforms it from like 5 volts to like, I think it's like 200 volts with no amps or something. Basically enough for the to excite the phosphor in this. The downside to that is that if you run this on anything, it will introduce the most killer ground hum you have ever heard in your life. As soon as I plugged this in, like stuff started to fail. My audio amplifier went bananas. You could hear this noise out the speaker. Like you probably could do something fancy to isolate it, but after doing all of that, I found this stuff, which is LED strips, but cob based, which means it's super high density and it produces the most uniform light. And all I did was I just put a diffuser on the front and it looks amazing. And it's like 1,000,000 times brighter than a panel. Like if you need something that's thin, like if there is absolutely no wiggle room on thickness, like if you need something that's paper thin, fine. If you don't, like these cob LEDs, man, they're so good. And I've got loads of them, and I'm going to use them for other stuff because they are just excellent. But no, and also my first to use this as well, and it was hardly visible under fur. Don't put these under fur; you can't see them. Trust me, you just can't. Don't put electroluminescent paneling under fur; you can't see it. Don't use electroluminescent wire; you can't see it. And also, don't use Peltier devices for cooling; doesn't work. Seems like a good idea, doesn't work. Oh, yeah, there we go. Tape wolf. EL isn't very bright. It basically doesn't work outside and tends to make a two. Yep, there we go. There it is. The panels themselves are also wine and symphony. Yep, spot on. They're good. Don't get me wrong, but yeah. The TS100 micro pencil. Yes, my micro pencil. Stay away from my micro pencil. It's quite good, though. In most cases, the TS80 is easier because I can power it with a power bank. You can power this one from a power bank. And also, I've soldered XT90s with this thing. Surprisingly powerful, surprisingly good. And you can get all sorts of tips for it as well. I've got specifically like plastic melting tips for this, which is quite nice. What was the iron again? TS100. Yeah, thank you, Emmett. Really good. Like I got this for Christmas a few years back, and just excellent piece of kit. Yeah. What did you use for the switches in the hands of the synth? I used reed switches and thumb magnets because they're quite fragile. I've done it. I've been there. I've done the magnet thing, and it's not great, is it? Well, I don't know about you, but I found that it wasn't great. Like they're finicky, and the magnets need to be in the right orientation, and you need to be able to land that click. What I used was these tiny little mechanical switches, which I bought off eBay. All I did was just flatten the legs, and that click, like, oof, you got some nice haptic feedback. Like when I press the button to be like record, or you can feel when you've pressed it, and let go, you can tell when you've not. Like these things are great, and they don't fail. They're just mechanical switches. Like you can push that all day long. And if you need to replace them, it's just like 50 pence. So yeah, get some of these clicky switches. They're brilliant. And also I just fiddle with them constantly these days. Very satisfying. My first fursuit, actually, I used one of, I've even got the same part, one of these. So a knob with a clicky button. But you can mount all of these on a thumb, on a finger. The one thing I'd recommend, and one thing I did do, is with the clicky switches, don't mount the clicky switch to your fursuit, because your fursuit will move around and you will lose your button. What I would really recommend, which is what I did, consequentially, is have like a little clip, have like a finger clip, and put the button on the finger, because you're always going to know where that is. You're not always going to know where your fingers are. They might slip, they might move around. But if you've got your button like secured to your hand, whatever you have on your hand, you can do this, and you'll click, and it works quite well. So try that out, see if it works for you. Your soldering iron isn't grounded then. Did this cause any problems with sensitive components? Does the fur/fabric cause any issue with static when you're using your seat? Sorry, I'm reading this off really quickly. I should probably read them slower. The question was about static electricity, and I didn't experience any problems. I didn't ground myself, but yeah, I didn't have any problems actually. Then again, I'm not working with highly sensitive equipment. I mean, I'm using a Raspberry Pi, which are pretty bomb-proof. I'm using very standard off-the-shelf stuff, so none of it was particularly sensitive. So yeah, there's no problem there. I bought the TS100 with me in case the synth needs fixing. Yeah, they're just really good, and they're tiny. I mean, look at this. Look at this thing. It also uses the same charger as my laptop, so I can just take this and my laptops. Where can you get them? Well, one of these TS100s. Oh, I have no idea. eBay, I guess. Yeah, eBay has some of the Cobb LED stuff. Oh yeah, actually on the back of that, I bought 99% of my suit from eBay. eBay and Alibaba, like those are my two suppliers, or AliExpress. Like I don't buy anything from like big retailers these days. It's all from cheap Chinese resellers. So, and it all works. It all works fine. It all works great. So yeah. Funnily enough, actually, I tried to do something fancy with the USB hub stuff inside the suit, because most of the comms is done over USB. And funnily enough, none of my USB hubs work apart from the cheapest single chip USB hubs I got from China like years ago. And it was the only hub that seemed to work. And it was just quite funny. I had all of these pricey custom solutions from like Taiwan shipped in, and the one that worked was the £1 thing from like eBay I got 10 years ago. Yeah, so yeah, it's good stuff. eBay has some of the Cobb LEDs. Yeah, go for it. And also on this front, just buy some. If you got the money, just buy some and play around with it. You never know when it might come in handy. I mean, I've got whole boxes here full of things that I thought looked cool. And the amount of times I've rummaged through it and be like, oh, that's the perfect thing. It's remarkable. Did you add any caps to deal with the brownout, or was oversized power system good enough to deal with it? Yeah, you know what? I didn't add any capacitors. Even in the tutorials, it says add a capacitor. I didn't add anything. I just had some really chunky 20 amp power supplies. In total, I could deal with 160 amps of current. So yeah, it had more than enough. More than enough. What did you use for the switches in the hands? I've already done that one. Yeah. Cop stuff. Did you add any caps? Didn't add any caps. I did have some capacitors. Like there were some capacitors on the supply end, but not on the business end. Emmett says, I actually had mine let out the magic smoke after the supply it came with sent about 200 volts after the transformer failed. Oh, I know what you're referring to there, but I presume we're talking about the electroluminescent paneling. But yeah, that's pretty nasty. With the synth, mounted the reed switch on the glove. Ah, reed switches. Yeah, they can be finicky. I've had a play with them before, and I did use them for my first fursuit. But yeah, I just found them a bit too finicky. And a tactile clicky button, simple, sometimes works better. And you can get, oh yeah, Cobb LEDs you can get off eBay. Really cheap. And get some rest. Yes, I will get some rest. I will indeed. Everything is electroluminescent when voltage is high enough. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's going to about wrap it up for today. Any last comments, please do make them soon. But I think I am kind of clocking out at this point, so I think I'll leave it there. If you've got any more questions, please do drop me a line on Telegram or on Twitter. I'm all around. I hope you've enjoyed the Q&A, and also if you've got any feedback from the Q&A, if you want me to talk slower in future or anything like that, please let me know. I'm always looking for feedback. So yes, thank you, and thank you everyone for joining. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to join, and it's been really lovely to have so many people here and asking. So that's been really, really lovely. And yes, please join the Electric Fursuits chat. That's enough, Hyperfluff. Thank you very much. Excellent, and I will possibly make more. Who knows? Anyway, on that note, I will wish you adieu, and I hope you have a very good rest of your evening. And good luck with your future endeavors. Have a good one, and I hope this helps.